Hey, good morning. So, I've been awake for a little while. I'm just here. Anyway, I came up with some more of the story for becoming spellbound. And it's to do with the reason why Baron von Crumple wants the ring, why he wants King Rupert's ring. And when the conspiracy theorists and all of that start comparing all the things that are caught on camera, they're going to start focusing on the king's ring and the symbol that is on the ring, and it's going to look like, they're going to say that it's like two snakes eating each other's tails, like, twisted, eating each other's tails. So it looks like sort of basically like a rounder version of the infinity symbol. And there'll be all this stuff going on in the background while she's doing everything in the movie that she's doing, and he's doing everything he's doing. It'll be like in the background you'll see the TV on and people discussing how when the police looked at the cameras from other angles, they saw that the hand that put the thing in his drink, it came from somebody who worked for the Baron and blah blah blah. So then there'll be this investigation, and you'll see like snippets in the news on the TV in the background. So it's like it's in the background. It's like discussions, but it's not the main focus until Julia is called to meet with the king. People turn up and they say the king requests a meeting with you. He needs your help. Strange things have started happening and he's concerned and he needs your help. And she's like, because she's like, why is he coming to me? Like, I'm not, because like obviously everyone now knows that she's the whole reason why the mother popped up and stuff like that. So and they're like, strange things have started happening, and the king wants you to explain yourself. Not, and like he needs to know what the hell's going on. So he sends for her, and she goes to meet with the king, and he tells her about all these unusual events that have started happening. And he wants to know, what's going on. And so then basically she tells him the whole story, and then explains about, like, when she sees the ring on his finger, she knows what the symbol means. And she says, on the news, on social media and that, people keep saying, that symbol on your ring, blah, 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 means this. But it means, what it actually means is, like, how do I explain it? When I was writing it out in my head, it, like, the thin line between the mortal realms and the fairy realms. And he who wears the ring wields the power, means that he has control over the mortal realms and the fairy realms. And she's explaining to him that all these unusual things that are happening to him sounds like the work of the unseelie. and she explains to him about how she's the guardian for the Seelie fairies, like the Seelie folk, and they're the ones that are, they help the farmers, they take care of the planet, they keep the planet clean. They're the good ones. They're the good fairies. They're the fairies that help mankind. And help the planet and that, whereas the unseelie are like the naughty sort of dark side version of the seelie. And there's going to be like this whole thing where Baron von Crumple has promised the unseelie, when if you can get me that ring, before any of this goes to trial, if you can get me that ring, I will let you rule the mortal realms with me. Like, I'll let you have access to the mortal realms, but I will also let you take over the Seelie realms as well. So she explains to the king, like, all these unusual things that are happening in your homes and palaces, and that's the work of the Unseelie. And the Unseelie also are sometimes known to work with pixies, and pixies are trouble. Pixies are the whole reason why we have litter and stuff, when they act all nice and sweet to your face, but at night time when you're asleep and that, they're completely unruly. And when they're in a bad mood, they like to litter and dump rubbish and knock bins over and things like that. So all these unusual things that are happening to the king, she's explaining that it sounds like they've come after him. And then, of course, with the whole Baron von Crumple thing, kind of writing it in, where he's basically done a deal with the Unseelie that if they help him get the ring, then he'll give them powers, because then he'll get to control all the, basically all of Europe and all of that. So, but bearing in mind this is a rom-com, but there are ways to make things like that funny. Like, I'm watching 10th Kingdom, and there's people getting arrows in the neck, and yeah, like they're getting like speared and arrowed and chopped and all of that. But there's still comedy in there, and then of course Paranorman as well has comedy in it. And this rom-com isn't going to be like a knee slapping, wet yourself laughing. It's humorous. There's funny things in it. It's, well, like Bridget Jones in that, makes you chuckle, not laugh out loud. It's a rom-com, not a comedy. Like it's a feel good kind of make you chuckle sort of, yeah, like my best friend's wedding sort of, yeah, Muriel's wedding, like all those kind of, your typical rom-coms. So there's ways that you can bring in the supernatural in that, like with practical magic and hello again, and make it funny. But that's why I'll have good comedy writers and that to help me. But yeah, so then of course obviously there'll be this whole thing where she'll have to tell the king what to do to protect himself, and how he can't let anyone have access to that ring. And I think, do like a whole thing in it where it opens the king up to the gifts that he forgot his ancestors had as well. So like he'll meet the Seelie, and we'll make, like, I was thinking we could do like it's one of the movies I think where it'd be really cute to have like graphics in it of like, cute little fairies and tasteful graphics. So yeah, it's it's becoming quite endearing to me. This wee becoming spellbound is keeping my mind off everything going on around me at the moment as well, because I really don't want to do any thinking at the moment. So it's helping me take my mind off everything. There's just a lot going on. So yeah. So then obviously eventually when everything comes out, arrests are made, and there'll be like a whole bit where Baron von Crumple's handcuffed and taken into, like, the London Met Police Station, and cameras and flashes and all of that, and the mysterious hand and all of that. The person gets revealed, and there ends up being like a whole trial and people thrown in prison and blah blah blah. But it being light and airy and not serious, not serious. If you think of the way that they made practical magic, for example, there was a lot of dark stuff in that, but there was a lot of light-hearted, sweet. It was emotional. It made you laugh. It made you it kind of gave you the chills in some parts, but it was endearing and lovable, as well as intense and a little bit like, whoa, I remember when I first watched it thinking, I can't believe they've put this in a romantic comedy. And I do consider it like a romantic comedy. There's things in it that are just kind of like, whoa. But at the same time, it's such an endearing, lovely movie. So yeah, it'll be like that. Your classic sort of like British style rom-com, Bridget Jones and all that, but that involves fairies and alchemy and yeah, two people falling in love who had no idea when they met they were going to end up falling in love, and it all ends up messy and jumbled, and yeah, but they figure it out, and then he presents her with the box for her to keep her keys in, her jewellery, and blah blah blah. And from that, the rose grows, the seeds grow. She plants the seeds for her daughter to carry on the gift of the ancestors in her family, but more, because we kind of, each succession of the chosen women in my bloodline, and that they upgrade. So yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of like write it in as a upgrade in powers, supernatural powers. The language of, yeah, I can't even begin to explain it anymore. I think I've run out of ways to explain it, what it is to be like an elemental alchemist. The way that the women in my family, like my mother and my grandmother and all of that, through my mum and dad's bloodline, the way that they knew the land, the way that they knew the ancestors and death and all of that, like it's hard to explain if you're not indigenous or like a generational elemental alchemist. It's impossible to even try to get you to understand. I'm trying, by putting it into the things that I write, by putting it into the things that I create, I'm trying to show you, but at this point, I've stopped caring whether you understand me or not, because I'm having so much fun writing and creating and developing and using my abilities as an elemental alchemist to build a kingdom of imagination and creativity for children who would otherwise not be given the opportunity to go to a place where they will feel safe to express themselves freely without fear of ridicule, bullying, or judgment. And I'm using the world around me to inspire me, and I'm loving every minute of it. So, yeah, so she's going to have a wee chat with King Rupert. He's going to call her to explain herself because he doesn't understand what the hell's going on. Weird things are going to be happening in his palaces and castles, wherever he is, and she will explain about the ring and how basically he rules the mortal world and the fairy kingdoms, but he's forgotten that he rules the fairy kingdoms. And this obviously the Baron wants access, and he's sent the Unseelie to disturb his peace, so to speak. So she'll show him how to protect himself and what to do, and send the Unseelie away, and he'll meet the Seelie folk, and he'll start remembering who he is. People will be shocked because he'll come out with things, and people will be shocked, like, Your Majesty, this is most unusual for you, and he'll say, this is odd behaviour, that sort of thing, and he'll say it's not odd behaviour, it's remembered, like I'm remembering who I am. Yeah, and it'll all come flooding back to him, and then he becomes a better ruler. And yeah, when the Baron's arrested and all of that, that's when it goes back to no longer being the centre of attention, and all about John trying to make up for the fact that he insulted the woman he loved, and now he knows how to fix it, and then the movie will end. So yeah, so I think that kind of pads the movie out enough to explain everything, leaving all the answering all the questions that would be otherwise left unanswered. Because I hate movies where things happen and then they don't explain certain things that happen, but this will explain why the Baron's after the ring. You know, why he wants to have control. Because then also as well, he thinks if he has control of the fairy folk and the fairy kingdoms, he'll have access to like the gnomes and dwarves and all of that, and the leprechauns and, you know, all the other ones. So then he can control like the death spirits, and refuse people who have died, like refuse their soul to have entry into heaven, that sort of thing. He wants total control, like total domination of everyone and everything in the seen and unseen realms. And then, of course, if he has access to the dwarves and leprechauns and that, he has access to the gold and the the diamonds and the mines with all the precious minerals and that. Because he's just greedy and selfish and psychopathic, and he wants the ring, but he's not the rightful heir. Um, the ring can only be worn by the rightful heir. It's like the sword in Excalibur. Only the one with whom the sword belongs can pull the sword out of the stone. It's the same thing. The one who wields the ring has to be the rightful heir. the ring knows if it belongs on your finger or not. So, yeah. So anyway, I'm going to go and make myself another coffee. I just wanted to document it. I'll speak to you later. King Rupert's name might change, but I just call him King Rupert for now, by the way.